everybody, I'm Bonnie Barker with BonnieBayCrochet.com, and today I want to show you how to crochet Bonnie's Autumn Cabled Throw. And if you're a very first time visitor to my channel, I'm going to ask if you could please hit that subscribe button and also the thumbs up if you like the project. That really does bless me. And if you could hit that notification bell, you won't miss any of the new things that are coming to my channel. And I have a lot of really fun things lined up for you, especially for this winter and fall. Okay, well, let me go ahead and show you what you're going to need. For this project, I'm going to be using a yarn called Brava. It's a worsted weight yarn, 218 yards per scan, or 100 grams. The number of scans that I used is at the bottom of the screen right there. This yarn, should you be interested, is available from KnitPicks, knitpicks.com. I do have a link in the video description below. And this is 100% premium acrylic. And the color that I'm using today is called Paprika. And there's the lot number should you be interested in that. Okay, let's go ahead and let me show you the crochet hook I'm going to be using. I'm going to be using a size I or 9 or 5.50 millimeter crochet hook. And as always, I recommend that you have a yarn needle and a pair of sharp scissors handy. I'm also recommending that you have a couple of removable stitch markers that you can put on and take off. And here's another style that's available. If you don't have something like this available, feel free to just use a piece of contrasting yarn that will do the same trick. To begin, we're going to start with a slip knot, and you're going to chain 180 chains. After you finish your chain of 180, we're going to go ahead and work double crochets starting in the third, not the fourth, but the 1, 2, 3, the third chain from the hook, and go ahead and work a double crochet there, and in each chain all the way across the row. Now I will mention one thing. I am working in, if you look at the chain just like this, you'll see it's like the shape of a V, and I'm just working in one side of the V. This is my personal preference. Now, if you prefer to work in the back bump of the chain, like there, feel free to do that if that is your preference. We will not be working around this in a perimeter round of any kind. So whatever you see at the bottom of this row, that's what the Afghan is going to have. You know, when we're done, we're not going to be covering this up with another round or anything. So go ahead and decide how you're going to do that. I think working along the side of the V is perfectly fine. But anyhow, go ahead and work these stitches all the way across the row. And before I finish this row, let me mention one other thing, because sometimes I tend to crochet a little bit faster. If you want to slow me down ever, down here there's a little gear-shaped icon. It'll be on this side for the left-hand version. And if you click on that, it will bring up a playback speed, and you can actually slow the video down, or you can speed me up should you get bored. Up on the upper right-hand corner, if you're watching from a cell phone, or be on this side for the left-hand version, it does the same thing. You'll see 3 vertical dots. If you click on that, it will bring up a playback speed, and you can choose to play it back slower or faster as you prefer. Okay, so hope that blesses you, and I will see you in just a second as soon as I finish this row. After working all the way across the row, you should have a total of 178 double crochets, and that is not including the chain 2. I am not counting this chain 2 as a stitch. So just the double crochets, you should have 178. That's very important. Okay, now we are ready to begin row number 2. We're going to turn. We're going to chain 2, 1, 2. And we are going to be working the next 8 rows as ribbing, and this is the way each of these rows are going to be worked. We are not going to work in the first stitch. After that chain 2, we're going to work a front post double crochet, which A post stitch is where you actually wrap the hook around the body of the stitch rather than working through the top loops, and then you just complete the stitch, the double crochet in this case, as you normally would. For a back post double crochet, you come in the back door, the hook goes around the front of the stitch, and you go out the back door, back side door I like to say, and then you complete that double crochet as you normally would. Then we're going to alternate this all the way across 177 stitches since we skipped that first stitch. So again, front post double crochet followed by a back post double crochet. We're going to work this all the way across the row. After working all the way across the row, the last stitch you're going to work with the post stitches is a front post double crochet like I mentioned before, and then we're going to work a half double crochet working right into that chain 2 space just like that. Let's go ahead and stop and take a look at what we have. And now for row 3 through 9, that's going to be 7 more rows. They're all going to be worked the same, just like this. We are going to chain 2. We're going to work a back post double crochet followed by a front post double crochet, and we're going to alternate this all the way across the row just like we've been doing. Now when you start the even numbered rows, you're going to be starting with a front post double crochet rather than a back post double crochet. And the way you can tell is if you have the stitch facing out towards you, you're going to work a front post, and if the stitch is in the back like this one is, you're going to work a back post double crochet. Okay, and just like we have just done at the end of the row, now at the end of the odd numbered rows, you're going to end with a back post double crochet, and then you're going to work a half double crochet in that chain 2 corner space. So go ahead and work row 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 using the front and the back post double crochets. This is what you should have after 9 rows of working the ribbing, the front and back post double crochets. You should have 178 stitches, and that's not including the turning chain. Now we're ready to go to row number 10, and this is a very important row. This is the row in which we're going to set the foundation for what we're going to do throughout the rest of this throw. Okay, we're going to chain 2, and we're going to skip the first stitch, and we're going to work the ribbing stitch for the first 7 stitches. So we're going to work the front post double crochet, back post double crochet. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. We're just again maintaining what we've been doing. So you should have 7 stitches. Let's go ahead and double check this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, after that we are going to work a wattle stitch, and the wattle stitch is actually a combination of 3 stitches together, and we're going to work that through the top loops of the next stitch. It's going to be a single crochet, chain 1, and a double crochet. And then working these wattle stitches along the foundation row, we're going to be skipping stitches. So we'll skip the next 2 stitches, 1, 2, and then we're going to work another wattle stitch in the next stitch, which again is a single crochet, chain 1, and a double crochet. Now when we come back with the back side facing, and as we work in these wattle stitches, we are only going to work, I'm going to go ahead and use this, we're only going to work in the chain 1 space, and you'll see that better as I go across on those rows. Okay, after working that, we are going to work a foundation next over the next 15 stitches for these large cables. Okay, we're going to skip 2 stitches, 1, 2. Again, that's part of the wattle stitch. Skipping these 2. And the next 3 stitches, we're going to work front post, whoops, let's try that one again. We're going to work front post double crochets. Okay, skip 2. So you have 1, 2, 3. These are all front post double crochets. And then we're going to work a half double crochet in the next stitch worked in through the top loops. Now as you work these and set these out, be careful that you don't accidentally double dip and use one stitch twice. Okay, that'd be really easy to do since we're alternating in this section between the post stitches and then working in through the tops. All right, so then we're going to do that again. 3 front post double crochets, followed by a half double crochet, and we're going to do that again. 3 front post double crochets, and then a half double crochet. Let's take a look and see what we have. So we have 3 front post, half double, 3 front post, half double, 3 front post, half double, and then we're going to work 3 more front post double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. I'm just going to pause and show you what we have there. And so we should have 1, 2, 3, 4 sets of those 3 front post double crochet clusters and half double crochets worked in the top loops in between. So there are only 3 of those that are in between. After we do that, we're going to go back to working 2 more wattle stitches worked starting in the next stitch. Work the wattle stitch, which is single crochet, chain 1, double crochet, skip 2 stitches, and then in the next stitch, single crochet, chain 1, double crochet, skip 2 stitches, and now we go back to working 7 of the ribbing, where we're going to maintain the front and the back post stitches. So we have front post, and then 2 is the back post, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And just also wanted to mention, for the visual effect of this throw, it's very important that you start and end with a front post double crochet on this section. Okay, after we do that, we're going to go back to working some more wattle stitches. I've pretty much worked the repeat. I'm going to go ahead and do the wattle stitches for you, and I'll show you what the repeat is. And skip 2, wattle stitch again. So as we work across, we are going to be working the 4 sets, which is the foundation for the large cables, 2 wattle stitches, and then the 7 ribbing stitches, and then again 2 wattle stitches, and then we're going to work another foundation. Make sure you skip these 2 stitches, and then we're going to work a foundation for those large cables, which is 3 front post double crochets, and then a half double crochet. We do that 3 times. And then a half double crochet. That's the second set. And do this again. 1, 2, 3, and then a half double crochet. And it's always a good idea to just to check. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3 sets followed by the half double crochet, and now we just end with 3 more front post double crochets. And just as a reminder, and just to point out as you work these across, we do not start with a half double. We just go right from the waddle stitches into this front post, and do not put a half double here, because if you do, that's going to throw your stitch count off. And then after this, we're ready for 2 more waddle stitches worked in the top loops. That's 1, skip 2, and that's single crochet, chain 1, double crochet, skip 2, and now we're ready to work the ribbing again. 7 stitches with the front and the back post double crochets. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And we are almost to the halfway point. So I'll go ahead and complete this row with you, because it is so important and I don't want you to have any doubts. So after we do those 7 ribbed stitches, 2 more waddle stitches, skip 2, and another waddle stitch, skip 2, 1, 2, and in the next stitch we're going to work another foundation for the large cable like we just worked here. I know it's a little tougher to see right now, but once we get a couple more rows in, I think you'll understand, and it'll be a little more defined. So this is the one where you work 3 sets of the 3 front post double crochets, followed by the half double crochet, and then at the end we work 3 front post double crochets to round up this little grouping. 1, 2, 3 front post double crochets and a half double. Let's check to see what we have. So we have 1, 2, 3 sets, and then we just do the final set of just 3 front post double crochets. And just like we've been doing all the way across, we use the waddle stitches, make 2 of those. This is a really nice fabric. Skip 2. This is a really nice crochet fabric that kind of recedes to the background and allows the cables to really do their thing in this design. Okay, skip 2. And now we're going to work 7 ribbing stitches again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. It's always a good idea to do a visual check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep. And then again, followed by those waddle stitches. Make 2 of those. Single crochet, chain 1, double crochet, skip 2 stitches. And in the next stitch, single crochet, chain 1, double crochet, skip 2 stitches, and we're now ready. If you need to see what we're ready to work another foundation for another cable. 1, 2, 3, and we're going to follow that with a half double crochet, followed by 3 more front post double crochets. 1, 2, 3, half double crochet, so that is 2 sets of those, and then 3 more front post double crochets. 1, 2, 3, and then a half double crochet, and then just 3 more front post double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Let's take a look to make sure that we have 1, 2, 3, 4 sets of those 3 front post double crochets, and again another wattle stitch. I promise I'm not going to go through every single row as thoroughly as this, but this is so important, setting up the foundation. Okay, again, skip 2, chain 1, single crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Okay, and then skip 2, and now we're ready. As we just work the cable foundation, we're going to work those 7 ribbing stitches. 1, 2, front post, back post, double crochets here. 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and we're getting close to the end. I believe we're getting near our last cable. We're going to work wattle stitches in the next 2 spaces. That's 1, skip 2, and that's 2, skip 2, and now we're going to work the foundation again for another cable, which would be the 3 sets of the 3 double crochet front post double crochets, followed by the half double worked in the top loops. So that's 1 set. This is the second set, followed by that half double crochet, and the third set. 1, 2, 3, followed by the half double crochet, and then 1 more set. 1, 2, and 3. Let's do a quick verification to make sure that we did that correctly. 1, 2, 3, 4 sets. That's very good. And now we're going to work the wattle stitches, single crochet, chain 1, double crochet, skip 2, and then single crochet, chain 1, double crochet, skip 2, and then we're going to work 7 those ribbing stitches, front post double crochet, back post double crochet, and you should have 7 stitches left. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Yay, I love it when the numbers work out. And we're going to work a half double crochet worked in the turning chain. Just stick the hook right in that big open space there and pull it up. And let's take a look at what we have, just to verify that we did it correctly. So we have the wattle stitches, the foundation for a cable, wattle stitches, the ribbing, wattles, foundation for the cables, and we should have a total of 5 foundations for the cables. Okay, or we were making 5 large cables in this. So we have wattles, ribbing, wattles, another cable there, wattle stitches, ribbing, wattle stitches, foundation for another cable, wattle stitches, ribbing, wattle stitches, another cable, wattle stitches, and then the other side where we started. To begin row 11, we're going to turn, chain 2, and we're going to work ribbing for the first 7 stitches, again skipping the first stitch rather, and starting with a back post. So whenever you have the back side facing like we do now, you're going to start with a back post double crochet and then a front post. I'm going to work this alternating over the first 7 stitches. That's 4 and 5 and 6 and 7. And really from this point it becomes very visual and you can know what to do just by looking at the stitches in front of you. So now we've come to the 2 wattle stitches, and like I showed you, there's the chain 1 space. That's the only space that we're going to work in for these wattle stitches. So we go to that chain 1 space, work a wattle stitch, which is a single crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and then go to the next wattle stitch, which is right here in that chain 1 space, and we work a single crochet, chain 1, double crochet. You can already see that makes quite a nice fabric, and you'll see that more as we progress down the row piece here. Okay, so now for the next, we've come to the back side of the cable foundation. We're going to skip the part of the wattle stitch here. We're not going to work in those. We're going to start off with 3 back post double crochets, 1, 2, 3, and when we get to the half double crochets, we work in the top loops of the half double crochet by putting a half double crochet there. You'll do that throughout the project. And then again, 3 more back post double crochets. That's 2, 3, and then half double crochet worked in the top loops of that half double crochet. And again, 3 more back post double crochets, half double crochet, and then 3 more back post double crochets, 1, 2, 3. And that's what you're going to work over every cable foundation. I'm not going to go through every single stitch on this row, but every time you come to the cable, the back side, that's what you're going to work. Those back post double crochets, half double, 3 back post, half double, 3 back post, half double, 3 back post double crochets. And then we come to the wattle stitches, and again worked only in that chain 1 space. Work another wattle stitch, and the next wattle stitch, single crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and then we get to the 7 stitches. Make sure you begin with the back post double crochet for these 7 stitches. Very important to maintain the design. It's going back post, front post, back post, front post over those 7 stitches. Again, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and don't forget this last stitch here. Why do I say that? Because I have done it myself. So make sure that you are counting 7 stitches, starting and ending with back post double crochets over that ribbing section. And then again, we get to the wattle stitches, and we just work wattle stitches in that chain 1 space. So I'm actually going to tell you what to do for the rest of this. So this is what it will look like with the back side. From the front, let me show you what it looks like from the front side facing. You can see the foundations are becoming much more defined with this row, and you see how the ribbing continues. Okay, so now for the rest of this row, you're going to work the back post, 3 back posts, then a half double crochet, in each of these clusters all the way across the back side of the cable, and then 2 more wattle stitches. And again, working over the ribbing, make sure you start with the back side. So back post, front post, back post, front post, back post, front post, and back post. Make sure you work over 7 stitches over this section. Wattle stitches, and then again through another foundation for that cable. And we're going to work that all the way across. And when you get to the end, we're going to work those 7 stitches, back post, front, back, front, back, front, back post, and a half double crochet in the chain 1 space. So go ahead and work that all the way across the row. Now that we have the front side facing, we're ready to work row number 12, and this is the row in which we are going to cross all of the cables. Okay, so let's go ahead and start. We're going to chain 2, and just like we have the last 2 rows, we are going to begin with the ribbing, and we're going to start, since the front side is facing, we will start the ribbing with the front post double crochet. Again, skipping that first half double and working in the first post stitch, and then we work a back post, front post, double crochet, back post, again over those 7 stitches, and let's just make sure that we have the 7, again starting with the front. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stitches. Now we're going to work in those waddle stitches, again working only in the chain 1 space. Work that single crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and work in the next one as well. Okay, now this brings us to the first crossing of the cable, and this is a unique way of doing this. So if you've done cable crossings before, just may want to pay attention because this is a slightly different system. Okay, we're going to skip the next 3 stitches and a half double crochet. We're going to work a half double crochet right in there. Now we're going to work front post treble crochets in the next 3 stitches. That's 1. I'll go a little bit slower. That's 2 and 3. Now we are working what I like to call the large wheat cable, and or at least a variation on that. So we're going to wrap the hook twice, and we're going to actually work front post treble crochets but coming in behind these 4 stitches. And the way we do this is after we wrap our hook, we come in behind. Do you see I'm coming in behind into this big hole here, and our first stitch we're going to front post around is this one. So if I feel that with my fingers, I identify the stitch, and then I can poke my thumb up in that hole, and it's much easier to see and work these stitches. And then I complete my front post treble. Let's do that again, coming into that same hole, and the next stitch is right here. Identify it with my fingers. You can see it there. This does take a little bit of practice, and it may be very awkward at first, but it's worth the fight, I promise you. Come into that hole again, and here's the 3rd stitch right there. Identify it, and go ahead and finish out that front post treble. Now we work a half double crochet in that next half double crochet. So essentially half of this cable has been done. This is the center of the cable here. Now we're going to skip 3 more stitches and do another half double crochet in that next stitch. Front post treble in the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. Now this is the easier part of this cabling. Working in front of those last 4 stitches, the 3 post stitches and that half double crochet, we're going to front post treble in each of these stitches, starting with this one. So it's kind of a reach. Come back across. Let's go ahead and get through. Oop, let's try that one again. Yep, I can make mistakes too. Okay, so double wrap the hook, come around here. That's 1, 2, and 3, and the first cable is crossed. That's the way we are going to work all the cables across during this row. I'll work that again for you in just a few minutes, but now we're going to go ahead and work the waddle stitches the same that we've been doing. Single crochet, chain 1, double crochet in that stitch, go to the next chain 1 space, and work a waddle stitch in that space as well. And you know what to do here, but I'm going to just review with you. So we come to the ribbing, and again 7 stitches starting with a front post since the front side of this is facing us. So front post, back post, double crochet, front post, then a back post. Once you get the hang of these things, it really falls into quite a nice rhythm. You can give your muscle memory a little bit of time to work into it. I think you'll find that it becomes quite rhythmic and more of a natural feel than it may be right now. And we get to the waddle stitches again. Go ahead and work those waddle stitches in the waddle chain 1 space. Okay, now we're ready to work another cable. So I'm going to work this for you one more time and then let you finish out the row. Work it again. Skip the next 3 stitches, half double in that half double crochet, front post treble crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. And we do the tricky part first, working behind the last 4 stitches. We come into this hole behind and we work front post treble, starting with this one. So identify it. There you go. Feel it with your fingers and then crochet around it. And let's do that again, coming into that same hole. Take the 2nd stitch right there. And then the 3rd. Coming into that same hole, and we're going to again identify it with our fingers and pull it out. There you go, and crochet around it just like that. Half double crochet in the next stitch, which again is going to be the center of this large cable. Skip the next 3 stitches. We're going to work a half double crochet working through the top loops. Pull through. Well, let's try that one again. Loops got a little tangled. There we go. Half double crochet in the top loop, so the half double, and then front post treble crochet in the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. Working in front of the last 4 stitches, a half double crochet in those 3 front post trebles. Treble crochet in the 3 stitches that we skipped. 1, 2, and 3. And then again we follow that up with the 2 waddle stitches worked in that chain 1 space. And then we continue on with the ribbing, starting with the front post and back post over those 7 stitches. So let's go ahead and just take a look at what we've done. And that essentially is your repeat all the way across the row. So I've crossed 2 of these cables for you. And just continue that with the ribbing, the waddle stitches, and then you have 3 more cables that you're going to be crossing. So go ahead and work that all the way across the row. When you end, don't forget to start with the front post, and you have 7 stitches here, and then end with a half double crochet worked in that turning chain. This is what you should have after completing 12 rows, and I'll show you the cables again, and framed with the 2 sets of waddle stitches, and then of course the ribbing. So we have 1 set of foundational cables here, and 2, 3, that would be the center, 4, and 1 more, which is 5. Okay, now we're ready to go to row 13, and this will be worked with the back side facing. So we go ahead and turn. And just like the other rows, we're going to chain 2 And since we have the back side facing us, we're going to start with a back post double crochet and work the ribbing, which is the front and back post double crochet over the first 7 stitches. Okay, and 5 and 6 and 7. Now this row that I'm going to show you is going to be one that you're going to repeat quite a bit. Every time you work the row after the cables have been crossed, like we just did, you will work on the back side of this cable like I'm going to show you in just a second here. So we work into those chain 1 spaces of the wattle stitches, working the wattle stitch, which is a single crochet, chain 1, double crochet. And there are 2 of those. Now as we work across these crossed cables, we are going to work 3 back post double crochets. Now I'm turning this kind of backwards so that you can see. I'm going to be working back post double crochets. That's 2 and 3. Now where the cable was crossed, you can see the space right here. We're going to work a half double crochet between the last stitch and the next stitch, just right in the center there. It's not directly in a stitch, but it's between 2 stitches. After you do that, we're going to do 3 more back post double crochets. Make sure that you get all 3 of these stitches. 1, 2, and the other stitch is right here. Might be a little tricky to get, but again, use your nerve endings and your thumb and your tall man finger to help you with that. Now for those of you who are concerned about stitch counts, we have added a stitch here, but we are going to skip this half double crochet here, thereby canceling that out. So the stitch count does remain the same throughout the entire project. Stitch count will be the same. So now we're going to work a half double crochet in this half double crochet, which is right in the center of the big cable. And now we're going to work 3 more back post double crochets, carefully working our hook around those stitches. 1, 2, 3. Make sure that you don't skip any of these stitches, or you'll have to come back and redo it. And again, this is the point where the cable crossed. Go ahead and work a half double crochet that's in between the last stitch and that next stitch. And here are the next 3 stitches. You can feel them on the back side. You may have to, again, use those nerve endings in your fingers to carefully guide your hook. Okay, that's 1, 2, 3. And then that brings us to the wattle stitches. And we just work a wattle stitch in those. You know how to do that by now. And it worked again in that chain 1 space. After we do that, we are going to work 7 of the front post, back post. Remember, with the back side facing, you start with a back post double crochet for starters. So go ahead, work 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now if you're going to forget a stitch, it's going to be this one, the number 7. So make sure, I just highly recommend that you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, just to make sure that you have those. And why do I keep repeating this? Well, because even though I've designed this pattern, I will tell you personally that I have done just that. These things that I'm calling attention to again and again, it's because I have done it more times than I care to remember. And I'm just trying to save you some ripping out time, or frogging as we call it in the crochet universe. All right, so we go back to those wattle stitches, single crochet, chain 1, double crochet, or that wattle stitch. And here's the next one. And I'm going to show you how to work this one more time. So let's just pause here. And so the repeat is going to be with you working the wattle stitches in the wattle stitches, working the back post double crochets, half double in between where the cable was crossed, and then a half double crochet in the center, just like I showed you there, and then wattle stitches, and then 7. Make sure you have 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I just had to count them just to make sure. And then wattle stitches, and that is pretty much your repeat all the way across the row. But let me go ahead and show you this cable one more time, and then I'll let you finish out the row. Okay, so 3 back post double crochets, half double in between the last stitch and the next stitch, and this half double crochet does help to give the cable a lot more definition. And then 3 more back post double crochets, 1, 2, 3. Now remember, as you get to the center of the large cable, we're going to skip this half double. We're going to work in this half double, which is kind of a standalone out in the middle there. So after working that center half double crochet in the middle of the large cable, we work 3 more back post double crochets, 1, 2, let's try that one again, 3, and then a half double crochet in between the last stitch and the next stitch, again that's right in the center where the cable crossed from the last row, and then 3 more back post double crochets, 1, 2, 3, and then onto our wattle stitches worked in those chain 1 spaces, 1 and 2. Okay, so this is what it should look like from the back side, which is not very pretty, I grant you, but when we look at it from the other side, it does look much better, and you can see the pattern starting to grow. So go ahead and finish this row all the way across. This is what you should have after 13 rows. I'll just show you the repeat section. Now we're going to begin row 14, and we start again with a chain 2, and we're going to work starting with a front post double crochets those 7 stitches at the beginning. So front post, back post over those first 7 stitches for the ribbing, which is going to be a nice border along this throw. And again, once you finish, make sure that you really do have 7 of these stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And once again, we come to those wattle stitches and we work in that chain 1 space, single crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and there are 2 of them. Make sure we work both of them. Okay, now after that, we're actually going to work a row that was similar to the first row that we worked, but of course it's going to look a little different since we're working it in an established cable. So what we're going to do is work 3 front post double crochets, 1, 2, and 3. Then we work a half double in the half double crochet, which is right there, and then 3 more front post double crochets, 1, 2, and 3, and then a half double in that next half double, and we repeat that again. 3 front post double crochets, 1, 2, 3, followed by a half double crochet, and then 3 more front post double crochets, 1, 2, and 3, and And I'll go ahead and work another repeat of this just to show you. Work those waddle stitches in the chain one of the waddle stitches from the previous row. Again, you're going to be doing this throughout the entire project. And then another one in the next chain one space. And then when we get to the ribbing, which is in the middle, or in our throw here, we're just going to work 7. And remember, front side facing, we start with a front post. Back side facing, we start with a back post. But make sure you have 7 of these as you go along. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And that is your repeat. I'll go ahead and show it to you. That is your repeat all the way across the row. And once you work this all the way across, don't forget that you make sure that you have 7 along here, and don't forget to work that half double crochet worked in that turning chain space. After 14 rows, this is what the cabling section should look like. Now we're ready to go on to row number 15. And we're going to go ahead and start this row with a chain 2, 1, 2, and again those 7 ribbing, starting with the back post double crochet, and then front post, and do that over 7 stitches. 3, 4, and then a back post and front post, and don't forget that last back post, and do make sure you have 7 stitches starting with the first stitch here, which is the back post. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, now this row is actually going to be similar to row number 11, I believe. We're just going to work waddle stitches in the waddle stitches, again working in that chain 1 space. And after we do that, we are just going to work 3 back post double crochets, 1, 2, and 3, followed by a half double crochet in that half double. It should be easier to see this way. And then 3 more back post double crochets, 1, 2, 3, half double in that half double, work through the top loops. Make sure you go through all the loops. There we go. 3 more back post double crochets, 1, 2, and 3, half double in that next half double, and there should be 4 sets of these. 4, there we go. So 3 more back post double crochets, 1, 2, 3. Let's go ahead and pause and see what we've just worked. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 sets of the 3 back post double crochets, and then we have those half doubles in between. Just wanted to pause and give you a good look at that. Followed again by the waddle stitches, and another one here. And now we come to the 7 back and front post double crochets. Don't forget, back side is facing, so we need to start with a back post over those 7 stitches. Very important. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 6, and one more. 7. Don't forget that 7th stitch, and that is the repeat across this row. This will be row 15. So don't forget, you have your waddle stitches and the waddle stitches, those back posts and half double crochets as you work on the back side of that cable, waddle stitches, and then the 7, starting with the back post, front post, back post, front post, etc. So go ahead and work this all the way across the row, and when you get to the end, don't forget you still have these 7, starting with the back post and ending with the back post double crochets on the back side, and the half double crochet worked in that chain 2 turning chain. This is the way your throw should look after 15 completed rows. Okay, now for this next row, this is row 16, I'm recommending that if you have a couple of stitch markers, that you mark a couple of these cables. We are going to work front post double crochets for 3 of these cables, and I will work a couple of these with you. But for the second, okay, so this is the first, this is the second cable, we're actually going to cross the cables again. So I'm going to put just a little stitch marker here to remind myself to cross this cable. This is the center cable, which is going to, the first, the third, and the 5th cables are going to actually be elongated. They're just going to go straight up. We're not going to cross anything. But the 4th cable, we are also going to cross this cable, just like we did several rows down here. So I'm going to put just a marker that I'm going to remove when I get to this point. But that's going to tell me that I want to cross these cables here as we go across. And we're going to, you know, hang on to these throughout and replace them in various positions, just again to remind us as a visual reminder. Once we've established the pattern, then you should remember, but if not, you can always use the stitch marker as a little note to self so that you don't have to do a lot of ripping out. So we go ahead and start this row with a chain 2, and just like we've done before, I'm going to go ahead and do these. We work the 7 ribbed stitches, starting with a front post double crochet since we have the front side facing. So I'm going to go ahead and work these first 7 stitches. After those first 7 front and back post stitches, we're going to work the 2 waddle stitches worked in those chain 1 spaces. Okay, so when we get to the first cable, we are actually going to repeat the same thing that we did for row 14, which is 3 front post double crochets, half double crochet worked through the top loops, and then we're going to do that all the way across. 3 front post double crochets again, half double in that half double, work through the top, and 3 more front post double crochets, another half double, and then we finish off the first cable with 3 front post double crochets. Let's stop and take a look at that so you can see how this cable is starting to become elongated. Now we work the 2 waddle stitches in the next space, or actually I should say 1 there and then 1 in the next space, and again we work these 7 ribbing stitches starting with the front post and then a back post. I'm going to go ahead and work these. After working those 7 stitches, do make sure that you have 7 with the front post and back post. Then we work our 2 waddle stitches. Again, single crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and we come to our stitch marker. Let's go ahead and remove the stitch marker because that's to tell us that we are going to cross these cables. We're going to skip 3 stitches, half double in that half double crochet, and we're going to cross these cables the same way we did down here a few rows. We're going to work front post treble crochets in the next 3 stitches. And please note throughout this pattern that we're only using the treble crochets when we cross our cables. And just like we did down here, as we work the wheat stitch, coming in behind those last 4 stitches, come into this big hole. We're going to work a front post treble over each of those skip stitches, 1, then work this one next. That's 2, and then coming in for the 3rd time and find that stitch, and 3. Now we work a half double right in the center, skip the next 3 stitches, half double crochet in that next half double, front post treble in the next 3 stitches, now working in front of the last 4 stitches, we're going to front post treble in each of these stitches that we just skipped. That's 2 and a 3rd. I'm going to go ahead and work the next 2 wattle stitches. It makes the cable easier to see. 1 and 2. Okay, so pull that up over here. So I want to show you how this cable is working. So this is where we cross the cable. So we leave this one uncrossed and crossing this cable. And this is what you're going to repeat all the way across the row. So we come to the next cable. You're just going to work front post double crochets in the half doubles where the half doubles go. And of course the ribbing, make sure you do 7 stitches, and then we come to a stitch marker, which means you're going to cross these cables just like we crossed this set here. And then we come to the last set and we just work front post double crochets, and then we finish with the wattle stitches, and then the 7, starting with the front post, 7 stitches, and then a half double in the chain 2 space. So go ahead and finish row number 16. This is what you should have at the end of row 16, and I highly recommend that you just double check visually that you've done the cables correctly. So the first one is not crossed, the second one is crossed, third one is not, the 4th one has been crossed, and the 5th one is not. Okay, so now we're ready to go on to row number 17, and this should look somewhat familiar to you as we work this across this time. We're going to chain 2, and I'm going to go ahead and just give you some verbal instructions here. We're going to start with a back post double crochet, and we're going to work those 7 stitches, back post, front post. Make sure that you work that last back post, don't leave any stitches out, and then go ahead and work the 2 wattle stitches, and then we're going to work back post double crochets over this first uncrossed cable. So it's 3 back post double crochets, half double, 3 back post double, half double, 3 back post, half double, and 3 back post, and the 2 wattle stitches, and then again 7 stitches starting with a back post double crochet, front post, back post, front post, etc. over those 7. Don't forget this one. Make sure you have 7 stitches for this section, and then work the 2 wattle stitches here. And then after you complete that, I'm going to work the back side of the crossed cable with you just as a refresher. So go ahead and complete that much, and I will meet you at this point. Okay, after working those stitches that I mentioned across, we've come to the cable that has been crossed, and so I just wanted to work that with you as a refresher. It's worked the same way that we worked this several rows before. We work 3 back post double crochets. Once we get to the center where the cable was crossed, which was right here, we're going to work a half double crochet between that last stitch and the next stitch, just right there in that open space where they were crossed, and then 3 more back post double crochets. Make sure you get that third one, which is right there. Skip this half double crochet, then work a half double in the next half double crochet, and then we'll get the other side of this cable. Back post double crochet in the next 3 stitches, and in between where the cables were crossed, you can kind of see that space there, half double crochet in that space, and then we're going to back post double crochet over the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to work waddle stitches in those next stitches. And that pretty much is the repeat. Again, just as another reminder, you have these 7 stitches. Don't forget, when you have the back side facing, you always start with the next back post double crochet, and you work it over, then a front post, then a back post. If you've gotten this far, you know how to do this part, so I'm going to trust you know how to do that. So go ahead and work that all the way across, again just working those back post double crochets and half doubles across those cables that are uncrossed, and the ones that are crossed, I just showed you how to work across that, and you know your waddle stitches in between all of these, and make sure you have the 7 ribbing starting with that back post double crochet and ending with a back post double crochet. And just like we've been doing the other rows, after you work those 7 back post and front post double crochets, make sure you work a half double in that chain 2 turning space. This is what you should have after 17 rows. Now I'm going to give you a small assignment for the next 2 rows, which is rows 18 and 19. We're actually going to repeat rows 14 and 15, which are the rows down here, and let me just explain what this means. It's actually easier than it sounds. We're just going to continue working in pattern stitch as we've been working over these 7 stitches and the waddle stitches. When you get to the cabling sections, you're simply going to work front post double crochets for row 18 and those half doubles, front post half doubles. And the cables that have been crossed, you do the same, front post double crochets, half double, front post double crochets. That's for row 18. And for row 19, which has the back side facing, you're going to work again in pattern stitch across the ribbed section. Make sure that you start with the back post double crochets during this row, and the waddle stitches are always going to be the same. And when you come to the back side of the cables, work back post double crochets across all cable sections. Okay, even back post double crochets across this section as well. So go ahead and work rows 18 and 19, and then I'll show you what I have at that point. After completing rows 18 and 19, this is what your cables should look like. Okay, now the next row that I'm going to show you is actually a repeat of row number 12, where we crossed all of the cables at the very beginning. And so what we're going to do now, let me talk you through it and then I will start the row with you. We are going to work in pattern stitch over these ribbing stitches, front post, back post double crochets. Again, front side facing, start with a front post double crochet and make sure you do work 7 stitches over each of these sections. We're going to work the waddle stitches, and then I'm going to cross the cable in the wheat style, just like we did here, we're going to actually cross each cable. We're going to cross this cable, and all the others just the same. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start that with you. I'm going to actually go ahead and crochet over these in pattern stitch until I get to the cable section, and then I will show you the crossing of that cable. Once we get to the cables, and these are all going to be crossed in the same manner, skip the next 3 stitches, half double crochet, front post treble crochet in the next 3 stitches, and working behind the last 4 stitches, we're going to front post treble in the 3 stitches that we skipped. 1, 2, and again coming into that hole, and there's the 3rd stitch right there, 3, half double crochet worked in the top loops of that next half double crochet, skip the next 3 stitches, half double in that next stitch, front post treble in the next 3 stitches. Let's try that one again. And that's the 3rd. Now working in front of the last 4 stitches, we're going to front post treble in the 3 stitches that we skipped. Okay, and let's go ahead and work a wattle stitch here. Worked in those chain 1 spaces, and I want to just show you the rest. Okay, so let me show you how this is going to look. So what we are going to be doing here as we work these stitches, we're going to work this all the way across the row. You're going to have alternated as you go across visually what I'm calling an elongated cable, and then you're going to have 3. Well, let me go ahead and work my way. I'm going to work in pattern stitch over these next 7 stitches and the 2 wattle stitches. I'm going to go ahead and work this cable with you just to demonstrate that it is the same, but I want to show you the visual effect once I'm finished working this cable. Okay, so for review again, we're going to skip the next 3, half double crochet in that next stitch, 3 front post trebles, and again working behind those first 4 stitches, come into this hole, and we work the 3 post stitches that we skipped rather, and this is using front post treble crochets, and the 3rd, and the stitches right there. We follow this with a half double crochet worked in the top of the half double crochet, skip the next 3 stitches, half double in the next stitch, front post treble crochet in the next 3 stitches, working in front of those 4 stitches, front post treble in the 3 stitches that were skipped. And let's go ahead and work a wattle stitch here to anchor visually for this cable. Okay, so I just wanted to show you the difference here. So after completing the section with the wheat stitch, this section is going to look like this. Let's go ahead. And so what we're going to do is we're going to be alternating elongated cable and then the wheat cable. So we are going to now finish this row, and then I want to give you a small assignment. Okay, once you complete row number 20, which again is a repeat of row number 12, the one I've been showing you, I'm going to have you work rows that are very similar to rows 13 through 19 that we worked from this point up in our throw. But the only difference is going to be this. On top of this elongated cable, you are going to work the wheat cable. And on top of this cable, you are going to be working the elongated cables. And of course, I've already shown you what the difference is in that, but I'm going to go ahead and work these. If you need additional stitch support, what you need to do is you can go back and review rows 12 through 19. And I'll go ahead and put a little time mark at the bottom of the screen there. But when you do that, keep in mind that these two cables are going to alternate or change places. And if you need to remind yourself as you go through, you can use your stitch marker. For example, as I walk through this pattern, I might actually move my stitch markers over to this side, to the large cables, to remind me that I need to cross these cables every 4 rows like I did these cables. And these cables, by not putting the stitch marker, you can just elongate them by using the front post and back post double crochets as we did in this cable. This is a very visual pattern. That may sound complicated, what I just said, but it's actually a very visual pattern. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to repeat rows 12 through 19. Actually, I'm working on row 20, which is the same as 12. So I'm going to repeat through row 19, but reversing where these cables appear as I repeat those rows. And once I do that, I will show you what I have. Okay, I've completed another set of rows 13 through 19, but reversing, like I said, instead of working the elongated cable, I would work the wheat cable on top of that. And on top of the wheat cable section, I worked the elongated cable. So it's just alternating the two, and you see the pattern that it creates as you go across. And so what I'm going to continually do now as I proceed with this Afghan is continue to work in the same pattern stitch. So to continue on, I'm just going to follow the pattern and repeat these rows. And you can repeat as often as you like, but just keep aware visually that after you've worked the elongated cable followed by the 3 crosses there of the cables for those wheat cables, and then you're going to return again to the elongated cable, and just keep in mind visually, I'll go ahead and put this here for you, how they alternate back and forth. Okay, so go ahead, and I have the number of repeats right across the bottom should you need the exact number of rows and everything. So go ahead and check those numbers out, and I'm going to go ahead and continue repeating this until I reach the desired length of my throw. Now if you want to make yours slightly longer than mine, then just do an additional repeat or 2 of these sections. So, and of course if you do that, you're going to need a little bit more yarn than what was recommended at the beginning of this project. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and finish this part, and then when I return, I'm going to show you how to return back to the ribbing section so that both the beginning and the end will match. Okay, now I have gotten this Afghan to the length where I am now about to go work the ribbing section on the other end, but I just wanted to show you where we've come from and where we are going. Okay, this is one repeat of the section that I worked with you with the elongated cable and then the shorter cables, and then I've repeated this a total of 7 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there are 7 repeats, but a total of 8 sets of the elongated and then the short cable. Of course, this is alternated on the other side. So as you see, the opposite, each of the short cables is an elongated cable, and opposite the elongated cables are these short cables. And I'm really, really enjoying the way this is coming out. So I hope yours is as much fun to make as mine was. I did have to do a little bit of ripping here and there when I miscrossed a cable here or there, but all in all, very relaxing, very good journey. So let me go ahead and show you what you need to do to go from working this pattern back to transitioning to the ribbing. Before I begin showing you how to work this next row, I just wanted to mention a couple stats. The Afghan video that I just showed you was actually spread out on a queen size bed. So if that helps you to gauge the sizing, it is approximately, or the Afghan is approximately 41 inches wide, and at this point is approximately 54 inches, 55 inches long, depending on how you pull and tug on the Afghan. And when I say approximately, hopefully you all understand, it's really hard to get an absolute exact measurement because of the, the elasticity of the fabric that we're working with. Okay, so now we are going to work the row to return to the ribbing. And what we're going to do here is we're going to chain 2, and we are going to work over those 7 ribbed stitches. And every time you have the ribbing stitch throughout this project, you're just going to work, front post double crochet, back post double crochet, just like we've been doing all along for these stitches. So I'm going to go ahead and work these with you. And I think you're going to find this is an easy transition back to the pure ribbing that we're going to be ending with. And let me also mention one other thing before I start the next section here, is that if you want to do additional repeats of the cabling system, when I finish this, it's going to be approximately 58 inches long. If you want an Afghan that's a little bit longer than that, you want to do another section, either a complete repeat with the the full cabling repeat, or just half of the section, feel free to do that. Okay, so the transitioning from any additional stitches to what I'm doing now is going to be essentially the same. Okay, so now after we've worked these 7 front post, back post, front post, back post, etc., we're going to now work in the wattle stitches. And as you recall, we had 3 stitches for each of these. So what we're going to do, we're going to work in the chain 1 space. We're going to work 2 double crochets in that space, and then we're going to work a double crochet in that chain, in the single crochet of that wattle stitches. So for every wattle stitch, you're going to have 3 double crochets spread out like this, 2 double crochets in the chain 1 space and a double crochet in that single crochet. So let's go ahead and do that again. 2 double crochets in that chain 1 space, and then a double crochet in the space right there. Now as we work across the cable, we're going to work front post double crochets in all of the post stitches. So for working over the first cable, and this would be the same for all the cables across, 3 front post double crochets. Go ahead, you can work either a half double, but I'm going to go ahead and work a double crochet just to keep it consistent across the board. A double crochet in that half double, and then front post double crochets. This way when we do work the ribbing, we're working in all double crochets. And then a double crochet in the half worked through the top loops. And then we're going to do the same on the other side. 3 front post double crochets, and we're going to follow that with a double crochet in that half double. This is the only time that we're really working double crochets in a half double, is just to return to the ribbing rows, and then front post double crochets in each of the next 3 stitches. And then again we come to the wattle stitches, and just like I showed you in the first set, we're going to work 2 double crochets in that chain 1 space, and then 1 double crochet in that single crochet, which is part of that wattle stitch. Again, 3 double crochets for every wattle stitch. It's really important that you do it in this particular way, keeping the stitch count such, and I will show you why, because we have an even number. Let's see, do we have an even number? Yes, we do. Of these stitches, we're going to also, don't forget that double crochet in that chain space. I have these stitches worked out in such a way that once you get back to the ribbing, you can continue to alternate front post and back post. And let me explain that for any doubters that may be out there. So, for example, we ended on a front post, then this will be a back post, front post, back post, front post, back, front, 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 back, and then front. And see, because that ended evenly, this means that the ribbing across on the next row will be perfectly even and nothing will be disrupted with the pattern that we have established from row 1. There is a method behind the madness with a lot of this math. So now I'm just going to work front post, back post, double crochets over these 7 stitches. And then once I finish that, let me go ahead and finish this with you. We're going to repeat that all the way across again with the 3 double crochets, which would be 2 double crochets in the chain 1 space, 1 in the single, like I showed you twice already. So just go ahead and complete that all the way across as you work across these cables, and I will show you how to end the row. At the end of this row, we're going to work a half double crochet in that turning chain, just like we've been doing all along. Now for the rest of the ribbing section, I'm going to show you how to start the second row of this. And what we're going to do is we're going to repeat this row a total of 8 times. And you know what to do. It's going to start with a back post double crochet on this row. Now, of course, the following rows you will start with a front post double crochet according to whatever is in front of you. Okay, so with the back side facing, we're going to start each row with a back post double crochet. With the front row facing, you'll start with a front post double crochet. Okay, so we have a back post and then front post. We're just going to alternate this over those first 7 stitches, just like we've been doing. Back post double crochet, front post double crochet, and don't forget that last one there, back post double crochet. Now over the sections where you have just double crochets, we're just going to continue alternating. So you had a back post, then we work a front post, back post, double crochet, and then a front post. So go ahead and work that until you get, go ahead and work that till you get to the cable, and I will show you how to work the cable section. As we get to what is the back side of the cabling section, we just continue. So we used a back post in that last stitch, so we're going to work front post double crochet and then a back post double crochet, and we're going to alternate that all through that cabling section. Front post, and then over this stitch we do a back post, and just make sure that you're careful to alternate front post, back post, front post, back post over that cabling section and over the what used to be the wattle stitch section. Go ahead and finish that, and I will show you just how it lines up over here. Having worked the back and front post double crochets all the way until we get to the section that is now with the ribbing, starting with that back post here, I just wanted to show you that we worked a front post, and the next stitch, as we had hoped, is a back post double crochet, so thereby maintaining this ribbing stitch all the way throughout the project, and it comes out nice and even. Hopefully yours is too. If you use the right number of stitches the way I showed you, it should be fine. So go ahead and work these front post, back posts, alternating all the way across the row. And when you get to the end, we're just going to end with a half double crochet in that chain 2 space, and then you're going to turn, and then when you turn to work the other, you're going to begin with a front post double crochet. Like I said, when you have the front side facing, you're going to start this ribbing row with a front post double crochet. With the back side, you're going to begin the row with a back post double crochet. So go ahead and finish this row plus 7 more. So you should have a total, counting the first row that we worked to convert from the pattern stitch to the ribbing, you should have a total of 9 rows. So the one that establishes the this changeover, which is right here, plus 8 more of the rows where you have front post and back post double crochet. So go ahead and work that, and I will show you the last stitch. After working the 9th row of this ribbing, I'm going to work a half double crochet in that chain 2, and I am done. Let me explain. Let me show you the rows here. Okay, this was the first row that we worked those double crochets. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 8 rows with the front post, back post, double crochets, and of course the first row where we started that to convert it. All right, so now we're going to fasten off. I'm going to give it a chain and give it a tug. And I'm going to take my scissors and cut a nice generous strand. I like to do at least 4, maybe 5 or 6 inches right here. And the reason we want to leave a generous amount is so that we can hide our loose ends. I'll go do a quick tutorial. Now that we have our needle threaded, we are going to try to hide this inside the stitches. So I'm going to just bring this down, and again, there's no hard and fast rules on how we do this. We just want to make sure that we hide these stitches as best we can, or the threads rather, into the stitches as best we can. So let's go ahead and bring it down into a couple of them, and then I'm actually going to bring it up on this side a bit and into the stitch on the side. Because if I go down a bit and then up, then that gives it a little bit of resistance, you know, for coming out later. And I'm actually going to run it in to a little more stitches down here just to be sure. And it's really easy since all of these are going to be hidden amongst stitches that are the same color. So we don't have too much to worry about with them being seen within our stitch work. Then I'm going to cut the stitch, or rather the strand, I keep calling it a stitch, as close to that as I possibly can, but without hurting your stitches. And there we go. So now I've got a bunch more to hide, and I'm going to go ahead and do that in just a second. But first I wanted to show you, this is all that I had left of that 16th ball of yarn that I used for that project, which is very close. So if you tend to crochet on the looser side, I would definitely recommend that you buy a little bit of extra material so that you don't run out of yarn. Well, I hope you enjoyed Bonnie's autumn cabled throw. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. I really would appreciate that. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Also, if you wanted to send me a picture of your completed design, I would love to see it. You can always send that to me at my email address, which is in the video description below, or you can just post it on my Bonnie Bay Crochet Facebook page. Well, God bless. Bye-bye.